Good morning, Cyrus here. Today we talking about a full pull day. I'm gonna hit a new PR, I'm gonna fail a lift, I'm gonna drop some tips for you. Stay tuned. As you can see and probably hear, I learned a bunch of stuff out of my last video, starting off with recording the warm-up. As a powerlifter, it's no wonder that I start on the bench here. The plan for today's bench session is to build up for 100 kg, go for a rep PR, and then drop the weight a little bit to go for sets of 5. You can see me setting up the dead stops on the right height, and this will probably come in handy later on in the video. Something that I would recommend for everyone is to focus on the technique while warming up, otherwise you're just wasting potential technique gains, which will lead to actual muscle gains. The thinking behind this is that a better technique will let you move more weight, and more weight equals more volume, and more volume will result in more muscle gain. And that's the reason why you want to lift big if you want to grow muscles as a man or a woman. And while I'm finishing up the last warm-up set, I'm gonna switch up the music to the one I actually had in my headphones.
Sun. To dream, believe in strength. Now I'm the only one, only one. I was an ordinary boy until I my life destroyed, until I walk awake, scream my mind, I shout, the ground shakes.
After the huge relief and a little bit of thinking, I went over to 95 kilos and did sets of 5. And even if the benching itself felt great, you can see me grinding on the last 1 to 2 reps and even bringing in some bounciness and sacrificing some form to complete the rep. Because you have to consider here I don't have a spotter, so I kind of have to complete the rep. At this point there were just 2 other people at the gym who are kind of strangers to me, so I decided to bench without a spotter and just trust the dead stops. But for a general rule, if you know somebody who can spot you, you should definitely always ask for a spotter. To go from some general tips to powerlifting specialities, yes, I could have tightened my core here to hold my arch more and be more stable. And yes, I have a kind of wild stand while benching, but I figured out that works the best for me. If I get my feet closer to my chest or closer to the bench, it's uncomfortable and I can't really press anymore. So for everyone who hasn't watched hundreds of hours of fitness content, foot placement, your grip, your arch, these are all things who, depending on your body type, your mood, your feeling and just experience. I actually achieved a new state of stability while benching in the last week or last 2 weeks since I recorded that footage. I'm arching more now and my first rep feels very stable, in contrast to that fail right here. So anyways, forget what you've just seen and just keep the lesson in mind that the PR is very draining and you should not try to max or even matching your old rep PR is not a good idea. Let's say I did it for educational purpose only. Again, you have to consider that I'm not only focusing on bodybuilding here, so my main goal is not to build a huge chest muscle, which only bench pressing is definitely not the perfect way. I'm rather working on my technique and my strength, and this light set at the end of my bench workout is a perfect example for it. I'm focusing on catching the bar before it's hitting my chest and get the perfect diagonal bar path. After we get our big compound movement done, we heading over to isolation movements like the overhead triceps extension here. It's a great movement, but the seating part makes it kinda challenging for your lower back, so I throwed on my +10 strength belt to help me to stabilize my core. And after I purchased one for myself, I can definitely recommend to buy a belt. Afterwards, I should have got one earlier, and I can just recommend it for anyone out there getting into weightlifting or strength training. To drop a word about tricep extensions, it's actually one of my favorite movements, and I'm still suck at my triceps strength. As you can see, I'm always failing my bench press at my lockout or shortly before. Even if triceps extensions are the only exercise I really maintained for nearly 3 years now, with a couple months break while doing dips at home, on which I'm planning to make a video at my parents' house where I have my own dip bars, so I can also talk about home workouts or working out with your own body weight. I'm doing lateral raises here in the background. The first 20 kilos I got carried away by the camera right there. I'm usually doing with 17 to 19 kilos, but hey, progressive overload, so my goal is to hit the 20s strict or with a good form. I got it, but it was not beautiful, so hey. Here we're going back to triceps extensions, this time standing. How I said, I have problems locking out my bench press, so I'm focusing on my triceps to fix this weak point. I'm always doing the delt exercises, so lateral raises, overhead press between the triceps or bench sets to give them a little bit of rest time, because how I said, I'm focusing on the bench press and not on the PT part. To drop a quick word about wrist straps, I usually recommend to train without the wrist straps, because it's just extra form training and that gives you more stability in your wrist, more grip strength. But of course, if you have pain or an injury background, how I have, you should definitely wear those if the pain comes back, or on big lifts. For me, it's above 80 kilos bench pressing, I'm using those. And in the later workout or isolation exercises, I get rid of them to train my wrists back up again. I'm doing incline bench press here to focus on the upper chest. How everyone knows, the chest is split in 3 parts, lower, middle and upper chest, and bench press mostly targets the lower and middle chest, and that's why I'm doing upper chest training on the incline bench here to get my whole chest engaged. Of course, incline bench pressing also includes delts, and to finish them up, we're doing very light overhead presses here with 30 kilograms. I thought it's a good angle, but it's kind of bad lighting in the last corner of the gym right here. But I'm usually kind of alone back there, and this rack is nearly out of use, so I'm always going there to finish up my shoulders with the last pressing exercise of this workout. And now, as there's only one thing left, leave a follow. Serious out.